Well, a pleasant good afternoon and welcome to this special presentation of Cloud 9 on ACTN The Voice. I am Sheldon Yearwood and we're here to talk about the UNC internal elections. Many are hoping that the sun will rise for the UNC in the context of once again holding the realm of government. However, there are those who are saying that the sun is setting quickly. And there are some who have expressed some discontent. However, there are others who are saying they are okay with how things are going, things are improving, there's healing. What are your thoughts? Well, with me this afternoon is the man who is very familiar with the internal issues, the internal healing that is needed in the UNC, and none other than Mr. Vasant. Bharath, he is contesting the post for leadership of the UNC. Of course, a former minister under the People's Partnership and senator. So let's welcome him this time, Mr. Bharath. A pleasure, and thank you as always.
My pleasure, Sheldon.
And I'm really, it's not 2015. It's a different year, a different season. And I want to jump straight into it, sir, because many were hoping that you would have thrown your hat in the ring once again, and you have decided to do so. And I started off by saying that, a lot of healing. People have been calling for healing within the UNC. And there are many who are saying, you know what, the healing process has been good. But there are those who are saying there are still many open wounds and open sores that are just getting wider and wider. What are your thoughts on those comments? What is the position of the UNC right now that you said, listen, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring once again?
Well, I think well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show.
No problem.
I think the bigger issue of healing within the party is the healing that needs to take place in the country. Mm-hmm. After more than 50 years of independence, Sheldon, I think we are far more racially divided in Trinidad and Tobago and far more of a divisive society than we've ever been. And to a large extent, our political culture has contributed significantly to that. The manner in which our politics has evolved and how our politicians behave has, to a large extent, contributed to the fact that Trinidad and Tobago is almost on its knees at this point in time. And I say that because when one looks around at the institutions of state that are supposed to serve the population, whether it's the institutions of health, education, the police service, the judiciary, transportation, they all have failed the population. Very few of those institutions work in the manner in which they should, efficiently and professionally, that effectively serves the population. We also have, as you would know, widespread social decay, manifesting itself in schools now. We see across the country all kinds of activities related to sex and violence that is prevalent in many schools today. And of course, in the wider communities, we see a lot of serious crimes being committed. Still, murder rate has crossed over 400 already for the year. And then we also have a situation where, based on where the economy has found itself, we don't seem, from a governmental perspective, to have an escape plan for the citizens in terms of creating new forms of revenue and creating new job opportunities for our young people. Right. So when one puts all of those things in context, the politics of the country becomes very relevant and important in terms of how we go forward. And it cannot be business as usual. Right. All right? We need a new paradigm shift to be able to accommodate the ills that face society. And so therefore, if the UNC, of which I'm a lifetime member, intends to go back into government or find its way back into government, it has to convince a large body of the population with whom, let's be fair, they've lost the trust and confidence of, certainly based on the 2015 general election. But leading up to 2015, the party would have also lost 5 national elections. We won in 2010 and then proceeded to lose the Tobago House of Assembly elections, the by-election in Chaguanas West, the local government elections of 2013, where we lost 5 regional corporations, the by-election of St. Joseph in 2013, and then, of course, followed up with a humiliating defeat in the general election of 2015. All of those things point to the fact that there has been a breakdown of trust between the population and ourselves. And let's be fair, the population gave us a huge mandate in 2010. The question is, have we looked and searched deep down internally? Have we done the reflection that's necessary? And have we done the analysis to determine why that has taken place, why we have lost and continue to lose so many successive contests? And what are we doing to reposition the party to face another general election when it's called in 2020 or before then?
There needs to be...
And those are my issues, really.
No, I'm looking at the letter you sent to the General Secretary of the UNC.
Yes.
And what you just said there, you encapsulated more or less in what you wrote, right? The low gas prices, declining economy, etc., and the many issues that are now before the country. And you said in this context, it is of the utmost importance that our party be led by a team of credible, competent, accomplished, and committed individuals. So in hindsight, what you're saying is that the current leadership of the UNC does not represent what you said is needed.
That's
correct?
precisely what I'm saying. In fact, the party, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people, have done very little in the last 2 years to reposition itself to be a credible alternative.
What is the vision of the UNC at this time under the current leadership? Is it a case, clearly based on what you're saying, they're not seeing things clearly? You know, are there members even within the ranks right now who have come to you and said, listen, Mr. Bharath, you know, we are willing to put on the corrective lenses that we need to put on to see things better. We are willing to do what needs to be done to change things. But are you getting, what is the feedback you're getting so far?
Well, I've stated publicly that I have been working with about 6 MPs, sitting MPs in the Parliament, behind the scenes, of course. And for those who may think that that these people are being disloyal, they're not. They're actually being loyal to country because they understand and realize that the party with its blinkers on cannot take the country forward. And these people are involved in politics, not for themselves. They're involved because they want to be able to serve on a larger scale. And the best possible way to do that is to be in government. And they don't believe that the UNC in its current state is a vehicle that is properly primed to be able to achieve that. So I've been working with them behind the scenes. I've been working with them in their constituencies. Clearly, as you would appreciate, the kind of politics we practice in Trinidad makes it very difficult for them to come out openly and endorse or to support, but their support is there quietly. Let me also say that it doesn't only, it's not only limited to several MPs, but it extends further to many activists and councillors who are working in the constituencies, who clearly understand that very little is taking place in the constituency and at constituency level. There's very little party activity taking place. And very importantly, Sheldon, that they don't have a voice in the building of the organization. They are essentially called upon when election time rolls around to bring votes out or to come out and vote for themselves.
Now, they say love is blind, and of course, if you're blind to certain things, then you'll find yourself stumbling along your journey in life. And there are many who have claimed that the current leadership, that there have been a lot of stumbling taking place. I want to turn your attention now to the recent meeting that was held by Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, and I got some feedback from those. I didn't get a chance to take a look at it at the time, but there are those who are saying that she spent more time on the PNM than on the issues facing the party. Did you have a chance? Did you have an opportunity to take a look at it, and what were your thoughts?
I heard parts of the speech because I was on my way to a meeting, and I happened to tune in to listen to what was taking place. Clearly, it's of interest to me what happens with the party. But yes, again, you see, what we must always understand is that whatever we do at party level is being looked upon by outsiders as well, many of whom we expect or would like to become involved in party affairs and essentially vote for us as an alternative when that time comes. So we must be credible in everything that we not just say, but in everything that we do. Now, this particular issue that the Congress was called for, many call it unconstitutional, simply because the Constitution, in many people's opinions, do not allow for the leadership elections to be brought forward by a year. And certainly not in the manner in which it was done, whereby the Congress is being called upon to ratify a decision which the Constitution doesn't allow it to do. So the entire decision-making process is backwards in this case, whereby, according to the Constitution, the National Executive proposes to the Congress, and the Congress then agrees and forwards that decision to the National Assembly. Here we have a decision being taken by the National Executive and then going to the Congress to ratify. Now, clearly, you can bus as many people in as you want who are party supporters, who really, in majority of cases, probably didn't even know what they were being brought there for. You have a delegate sticker stuck on them, and you proceed to raise a motion, and these people stand up and they vote, not understanding the consequences. But you see, the real point here, Sheldon, is that the outside world is looking on at this charade. Okay? And then the party loses more and more credibility as a direct result of these actions.
To go back to the initial point, that there is it a case that we're seeing where the love is blind in terms of, because there are many people who really love Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Well, but are we saying it's blind love?
And this is why I, at the outset, talked about our political systems bringing this country to its knees, because it happens on both sides. Okay? As you know, there are people on either side of the fence for either party, the PNM and the UNC, who will vote blindly. They have no idea what the policies of the government, of their parties are. They have no idea if there are any differences in philosophy between the two parties, but they will come out and vote because they happen to look a certain way. And this is why we are where we are today. We vote traditionally along racial lines, and it is the politicians who bring out the race boogie at the appropriate time and causes us or causes the population to react in a certain way. And essentially, politics then becomes a very emotive issue rather than a rational policy-making vehicle that actually is best. Is it better? These policies are better for the country than those policies are, and we choose based on policies rather than how we look. And
once emotions come in the way of logic and the way of rational thinking, then you're going to have a lot of confusion taking place. Let's take a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Vasant Bharath on the internal elections within the United National Congress, carded for November 26th. I say that very guardedly, carded for November 26th. We just have to wait and see how that goes. We'll be right back.
Now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy.
Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua D'Amatos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Unfortunately, hey, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh, what's that?
Welcome to this edition of The Interview. And as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
And welcome back to Cloud 9 on ACT and The Voice. We are speaking of the UNC internal elections. Will the sun rise again? Will it continue setting, in the opinion of many? And I'm here with Mr. Vasant Bharath. He is once again contesting the post of leadership of the party. And it's going to be quite an interesting battle of the giants, I want to call it that, because both you and Mrs. Bisesa have been with this party for a very, very long time. Mr. Pandey, of course, he has made certain comments as well. I'll hope to get him on the show someday. But I want to touch on a very sore topic for me on social media. And social media has become the new Bible for many. Everything social media says is golden or it is God, right? And my concern is, has social media, in your opinion, has it helped the image of the party or has it damaged or even further damaged the image of the party?
I think social media is a good thing, of course. The use of technology to sell a product or enhance a product is whatever that product is a good thing. Social media, of course, has its downsides. And the downside is that people could almost go on social media and see anything they please. They could essentially libel and defame anyone that they please behind, in many instances, fake profiles. Because there are many, many fake profiles. And I think that the fake profiles that support the UNC and many of the people who support the UNC has done the UNC a great disservice because, again, I want to hark back to objective onlookers who are looking at the behavior and the kind of language that comes out of many of these Facebook posts and the kind of character assassination that they get involved in doesn't do well, doesn't bode well for the party and the party's image and the supporters of the party.
Now, one thing that I've looked at, and this is, we're looking from the days of the People's Partnership to now, and we're going back to the whole point about vision.
Yes.
And one of the concerns I think that have been expressed by many, something that I've noticed as well, is that you find that many UNC supporters are comfortable. And this is based on what they write, in that, yeah, we have our support base coming out. But if we are seeing beyond here and seeing long-term beyond the horizon, then you realize the whole aim is to get into government.
Yes.
And sometimes my concern, and the concern of many, is that, okay, are the members, based on what they're saying, are they realizing that there needs to be a shift even in terms of the thinking if we are to get into government? And you mentioned about a paradigm shift, but do you believe that the majority, because we said it before, Mrs. Pasabi-Sasa has a large support. Do you think there are members, many members, who are willing to also have that mind shift to say, listen, we need to think a little beyond, a little deeper, go a little further? Are there those who you believe are ready?
First of all, let me say that unfortunately, there's a perspective within many in the party that if you have a divergent or different view to the leadership or to those in the leadership of the party, then you are being disloyal. Now, what many people have expressed, and I've been on the ground since January of this year, not necessarily campaigning, but essentially giving people a voice, listening to them. What people are essentially saying is, look, we have no forum whatsoever within the party structure and mechanism to voice any opinions that we've got. So therefore, we've got to either keep quiet or just opt out of the system completely, which is what is happening. A lot of the activists are now saying, look, we've washed our hands of this. We can't, we don't have we are not able to voice an opinion. If, for example, there is a national meeting taking place at what was then Rienzi, and I'm not quite sure where the other place is now, where the head office is now, and we attempt to go on and speak, once we start to speak critically of the party, and it's not necessarily criticism for the sake of it, but constructive criticism, then we're shut up almost immediately. We're not allowed to voice that opinion. And if we're not allowed to voice it there, and we're not allowed to voice it through the party mechanism at constituency level, then what good are we other than just being used to bring out votes on an election day? And therefore the party cannot evolve where the opinions of the party are essentially the opinions of one person.
So what I'm sensing here, Mr. Bharath, is fair. There's some fair as well. Okay, if
there's absolute fair.
No, this is the thing. No, based on what you're saying, and again, we're being very objective here, based on what we're seeing on social media, do you believe that this is going to be an upstream battle for you? Are there those who are willing, as we say, to step out on water, on faith, and say, listen, we are going to do this, and we're going to not allow fear. We're not going to allow fear of drowning by stepping out on the water, and we are going to, quote unquote, go for that change that we feel within. Yes. But when the time comes, they're not going to vote. Or are there those who are willing to step on?
Right. So I have to be honest here. There are a large body of people who are not going to stick their necks out. Right? That is the reality of the situation. Okay. And but does that mean that we ought not to? Those who can and who are prepared to, does that mean we stay with the flock, or do we stick our heads out because we understand where the future is, and we understand that there's much greater at stake than the party or the color, the party UNC or the color yellow. But there is there's much more at stake, which is the actual country and where we're heading, and who is going to step out of the bounds and make that difference, or start the process at least. And there are many who are prepared to do that, but you've got to actually go and communicate with them and involve them in the process. Last night I was in Princestown, heartland constituency of the UNC. Of course. And I had several activists who reached out to me, and essentially they're saying, look, we need to change the way we operate. We cannot continue as a party and hope to get back into government and essentially chart a new way forward for the country with what's happening now.
And I think, and I think many have also made the point that the season is ripe right now for the UNC to start really having more discussions and having a more integral relationship with their support base and the country at large, given, of course, some of the discontent with what's happening with the current government. And that being said, now I want to just return once again to another issue that you raised in your letter to the General Secretary about the membership list and the allegations of fraud. And there were many. Yes. I remember many of them that came up under the last internal.
Correct.
Between then to now, have any of them been addressed based on your understanding, or are they still...
well, it's the reason why I've written this letter, because clearly if we are going to embark on a battle, and it will be a battle, then we want to ensure that the battleground is level and it's free and fair of any interference that could result in an election process that is flawed. And again, because the general population and the world is looking on at how we conduct our affairs. So a good example is the list, which I've highlighted as one of the 9 issues I want to have resolved. Right. And I'm saying, look, the current incumbent has access to the list. Now, the current incumbent has been privy and has had access on the list for the last 2 years. In fact, in developing the list and shaping the list. We are not, or when I say we, I mean those who may be contesting, will not have access to that list until after nomination day, okay? And then it may not even be a complete list. So if today I wanted access to the list, I would have to go down to head office in Couva, and I could view the list, but I can't have a copy of the list. Now, how you know? I mean, is it reasonable to expect anyone to be able to digest a list with 50,000 names in a viewing without being able to take copies of it?
And what are the justified reasons for not providing you with the list given
There is no justification.
Anything in the Constitution?
No.
The party?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
So we're saying that, look, it is the people on the list to whom we'll be directing our campaign. This is not a national election where we can go on a national campaign and waste resources focusing on people who may not be eligible to vote. We need to know exactly and precisely who's on that list so we can target our election campaign accordingly. So we want access to that list now. Okay, I have made it public that I am prepared to throw my hat in the ring for the leadership. I have a group of people who are committed to this process, but we want to be able to have access to the same information that the incumbents and our competitors have.
How soon do you plan to, well, I know the sitting MPs may not be, they may not speak out openly at this time, but one thing in terms of the slate and so forth, the membership, I'm sure they'll want to see soon, so they'll have an idea, okay.
Of course.
Right, so how soon do
Well, nomination day is not till the 15th of November. So we have until the 15th to be able to do that. But there are other concerns that I'm raising here, which would relate to the transparency and accountability of the process, which is one of them would be, we would want to ensure that there is an independent committee that's overlooking the election process. Because again, there were allegations last year about the level of independence of those who oversaw the process.
And you also mentioned a short while ago that there are those who will not stick their neck out, even though they may feel certain.
And in their minds, they believe or perceive that by sticking their neck out and speaking out against, let's say, the process as an example, that they are then possibly bringing the party into disrepute.
And then their bread and butter might be taken off of the plate.
Well,
so therefore, they're not going to, particularly in the season that we are living in. So the membership list is one issue. In terms of the 6 sitting MPs, they will, once everything November 15th is cleared, they will also be publicly speaking on your behalf as well?
Well, no. I mean, remember, none of these MPs will be on my slate.
Okay.
It's a completely new slate. It does not involve the members of Parliament. Okay. The members of Parliament have been supportive of me in the last several months, and I'm hopeful that they will continue to be supportive after the election.
Not on your slate, per se, but do you expect them to speak out publicly on your behalf?
No, I don't, because of our system of politics, as I said before. It doesn't engender that type of behavior. It doesn't encourage that type of behavior.
Understood. All right, let's take another break. When we come back, we continue our conversation right here with the leadership candidate for the United National Congress, Mr. Vasant Bharath, right here on Cloud 9. We'll be right back.
Now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
Followed by not some winner.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy.
Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua Matos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Unfortunately, hey, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh,
What's that?
Welcome to this edition of the interview, and as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
The devil's the accuser of the brethren, and he hates marriage because marriage is the image of God. He hates marriage is because it's the most sacred institution on earth. God created marriage in Genesis chapter 1. It is the first institution he ever created, and it's the foundation for every other institution on earth. And he's a strategist. He understands if he can destroy marriage, he can destroy all of society.
I found out that if our phones are close enough, and if we have a connection on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, come on, I'm about to preach this technology until somebody comes out of hiding. If I got something on my device and you need it on your device, if I can get close enough to your device with my device, what's on my device can jump on your device. If I get close to the one who created me, close to the one who called me, if I stop running and return to the place of my assignment, I got the drop.
So if you want to live behind walls all your life and live an isolated, lonely, miserable life, go ahead. But I suggest that you tear down all your walls and let God be a wall of protection about you. And he says all of your walls will be called peace.
All right, welcome back to Cloud9 on ACT, and a very interesting conversation here. I'm hoping to have the Mrs. Kamala Prasad on the show someday, so if she's listening, I welcome you. I will sure to make my call, and to anyone else who would like to join me on set to discuss this very critical election. Is not just for the UNC, as Mr. Bharath stated, it is for the country at large. At the end of the day, it's about going into government. I want to touch on the issue of marginal seats. And, you know, sometimes on both ends, PNM and UNC, we treat marginal seats like a bastard child, you know. And it's only when you see beyond the physical and you go deeper, you know, this child has promise. This child has potential. This child could actually do great things. And the UNC saw the benefit of having these marginal seats, these children of promise, as part of the People's Partnership Government. And then now these children felt betrayed. They felt, you name it. And from the same UNC supporters, and again, it's on social media, I'm not making these things up, you see the comments over the years. So now, how can the UNC, whether under your leadership or even under Mrs. Prasad if she returns, how do we now regain that trust of those members who were once part of the partnership from the, because right now, many of them, honestly, what happened? They went back to the PNM.
So trust is always a difficult thing to regain once lost. But it takes time. It is not, there's no magic pill, that there's no panacea, there's no silver bullet to regain trust. It takes time and it takes re-engagement. And this is the reason why throughout our conversation, I am stressing on going back to constituencies and communities, not just for cosmetic purposes, not just for the purposes of winning an election, but for really and truly engaging these communities in a very sincere manner. And it has to be done not 3 months before an election, or when an election bell is rung. It needs to be done now. And it means actually physically rolling your sleeves up, going into the constituencies, sometimes taking some cuss, because that is maybe what, people really need to vent.
People are angry and people are that's the thing. I think it's across the board.
That's correct. People want to vent. In most cases, they know that you are not going to be in a position after that meeting to be able to help them in any meaningful way, but at least you've engaged them and you've listened.
And as far as they're concerned, they've planted that seed in your head.
Absolutely.
So it's up to you to decide if you're going to water it, you're going to leave it to that.
And then you've got to go back again. This is not a one meeting issue where you just go and meet them and you shake a hand and you walk away and that's the end of it. This is an ongoing process that the party must engage in, that it has sought and chosen not to do in the last 2 years. And that is the reason the party finds itself in this position today, whereby as bad as things are with its opponent, meaning the PNM and the current government, the party is finding it very difficult to mobilize forces for its support outside of its traditional base.
Your relationship with Mrs. Carolyn Basabis herself, what is it right now?
Our paths have not crossed other than we met at a funeral, Mr. Sabga's funeral, and we exchanged niceties and pleasantries, let me say that. But we've not had any meaningful discussions or conversations over the last couple of years.
And in terms of the woman, many call her the mother of the UNC and all of that. Do you think because there's also been the allegation that there are those within the party who have been over the years pulling her strings, to which she has denied time and time and time again. But do you believe with the right support base around her that she can lead the party, or do you believe that it's kind of a little too late?
I believe that the buck stops with the leader. At the end of the day, the leader must, in every setting, whether it's political or otherwise, the leader must respect and take into account the opinions of others who are part of a team, but the buck stops with the leader. The decision-making, after having sought the opinions of others, the decision and the responsibility for that decision-making stops with the leader. I don't think that leaders can portray themselves as victims and continue to say, well, I've been led to make these decisions by others around me. And I don't think that supporters should also make excuses for leaders by saying that it's not the leader's fault, it is the fault of the people around the leader. The leader ultimately has responsibility for choosing the people who she engages with and who surrounds her. And that is a responsibility of leadership.
Now, opposition leader and political leader are two different things. One is called the Act of Parliament, and the other, of course, is where the party constitution is concerned. As the opposition leader, do you believe that she has an edge on you?
Well, of course, because she is in the parliament. I'm not.
Right, but
I'm not running for opposition leader, the position. I'm running for political leader.
But do you think that in terms of the campaign that they're going to use that is, listen, she's already there? And
they may do, and that's what was used last time round, that I'm not in the parliament. The issue right now is not what's happening in parliament. The issue is that the party has almost imploded, and the party has been not been engaged in any significant activity over the last 2 years that will cause the general population to believe that it's doing what's necessary to re-emerge as a political force in the country.
And again, based on what you said earlier on, despite it being an uphill battle by many, will view that you honestly believe that there are those who are willing to swim with you to make this a reality.
Oh, there are many, many who are willing to swim with me over the next month.
Okay,
but I want to make it very clear that this battle straddles November the 26th. This is not a battle that ends on November the 26th.
So which means win or lose, you are going to continue.
Oh, I'm a lifetime member of the United National Congress. It is my intention that once I continue to be a member of any organization, I will always strive to make that organization better whilst I'm there.
You made a statement before we actually started the show about a statement that Mrs. Bissar made which concerned you deeply. Can you just elaborate on that statement?
Well, part of her speech was the fact that she was proud that the party was tribal. I didn't hear it personally, but I saw it in the transcript that was sent out by Mr. Kapil Bisoon as being her speaking notes. And I found that a little troubling because, again, it comes back to pandering to creating racial divide amongst our population, which is, as I said at the outset of the discussion, which is what has caused us as a country, despite the fact that we've been blessed with so much natural resources and human resources, to be in the position that it is today. And that position is that Trinidad and Tobago is truly on its knees.
Wow. As we kind of wrap things up on the interview today, moving forward in the healing of the UNC and the racial issues that you brought forward, what message would you want to send to the membership in the context of what I have seen as the level of hate that you see emanating from someone on some of these profiles? What would you say to them to really understand the state of the party where it is right now?
I would say that we need to do some deep introspection and reflection as a people. If we truly treasure the United National Congress as a vehicle that can take us back into government, then we must do as much as we possibly can to reject this whole issue of tribalism, racism, divisive behavior, and look at the greater picture, which is positioning the party to go back into government and to be able to be responsible, to be able to responsibly look after all of Trinidad and Tobago and not a section of it.
I know we touched on Mr. Pandey, and he's also been very open about how he feels about the what he described, the state of the party which he founded. Have you all had conversations at all?
I met Mr. Pandey briefly at a function a couple of weekends ago, and we did have a brief discussion in a social environment, but we've not had any deep discussions regarding the state of the party. But I'm well aware of his views, which has been aired publicly on the state of the affairs of the party.
Well, as you mentioned, it's going to be a very interesting journey heading up to November 26th, a date which is still kind of open. Is it still?
Well, we're not sure if the matter is going to be challenged in court, and we're not sure if there will be other participants entering the race. So we wait until November the 15th, which is nomination day, to be in a better position to pass judgment on what will happen on the 26th.
Well, Mr. Bharath, you are definitely in the belly of the beast, and I say that very kindly, because this is really going to be a fight to the end, and you have to go in there strong. And I wish yourself, and of course, Mr. Vasant, the both of you all the best, and I do hope that the vision of the party is truly beyond here, and we could see beyond moving down the road. Sorry. So
I think the issue really here is giving the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and particularly young people, some sense of hope that something is on the horizon that can pull us out of the mire in which we find ourselves.
Well, I said everything that has been happening, God allows it to happen, so maybe we could see the error of our ways and also see, where we need to go, because change is something that is constant with life. And sometimes, at least worldwide, but I can speak for Trinidad and Tobago, some of us are very uncomfortable with change. But it is a part of life. And if there's a change coming, well, that's left to be seen. Mr. Bharath, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It was indeed a pleasure.
It was my pleasure.
This has been a special presentation of Cloud9 on ACTN, the internal election 2017 for the leadership of the UNC. Sunrise, sunset. I guess you just have to wait and see. Take care and God bless.
If you look, you still see there is a mountain top, there is a sea and sand. Child, I am your rock, I am your island.
And there is no destruction.